Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today I have my good friend James from 20th and 21st movies. How are you doing, James?
Doing great, Nathan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's my day off, so I'm very happy that I was able
And
to.
it's Friday,
And it's Friday.
TGIF. Woo.
Yeah,
Yesterday was yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, and today is Friday, and I am ready for it. I'm telling you.
yeah. There's this week's been like all holidays, like unofficial, like all the Star Wars unofficial holidays. I know my
May the fourth be with you, and
what
yep.
with you. Yep, and I had that, and Cinco de Mayo, of course, and I had
Hmm.
had some good tacos yesterday. So I tried to
Yeah.
celebrate it a little bit, but yeah,
And
I'm
then
ready for the
Mother's Day
weekend.
this weekend. So
And yes, I wish I had to do some shopping today. So, but yeah, this will come out a little bit later. I'm sure people will be like, "Huh, what are you talking about? That was in the past." But for everyone watching this at home, so if you're unfamiliar with this format, what this film journey series is we have a guest, another content creator usually, who is on board, and we're just really exploring their movie journey, right? We're from their earliest memories all the way up to where they're at now, and all the middle things in between, right? And all those other movie related things. So I usually start this thing off with the earliest memory, but I want to ask you, what are you currently watching right now, James?
well, that's a great question. Today, I actually popped in the player Fast and Furious. So not the very first Fast and Furious movie, but I just went through my Fast and Furious films collection. So I was just thinking
Is that the fourth one?
about those yeah, number
Yeah,
four.
yeah, that's what I thought.
So I was thinking about those films recently because they've been in the news with Fast 10, of course, with everything going smoothly with that production. Of course, I'm just kidding. Have you heard the director Justin Lin is
Oh,
sort
is
of
he
exit
gone?
stage left?
Oh
He
no, I
decided
haven't.
too much drama for me. I'm out. And he stepped aside as director. He's going to stay on as a producer, I guess. And they're trying to scramble to replace the director. So, and it costs like $1 million a day for a movie that is already pushing a $300 million budget. So
Oh man.
Fast 10 is off to a great start. But so I was just thinking about the Fast series, and I thought, let me see what are all the films I have in my collection in that series. And I just decided, hey, I'm just going to just watch this Fast and Furious one again, and just so I'm about halfway through it, and it's very entertaining. It's really
Yeah.
neat to see. Of course, Paul Walker, was still with us then, and this was a couple movies before, that tragedy. And so you see, Paul Walker, Gal Gadot, pre Wonder Woman. It's
Mhm.
just kind of cool to see these characters back in I think 2009 when that movie came out. So it's a nice little uh, blast from the past. So and
Literally.
I still have not been able to bring myself to purchase the F9. I just have
Oh
not.
yeah, I
I
still
haven't
haven't
seen
seen it.
that film. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it. I haven't been able to bring myself to
I've heard some
purchase it.
mixed things about it for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I have the first eight in a collection. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I actually watched those all for the first one I watched back in like 2001, right? Was that when that came out? I can't.
Which one?
The first one, 2001, 2002, something like that.
I think so. Yep, I think
Yeah.
so.
So I
20
remember
years.
watching that when I was younger, but then
Yeah.
I slowly learned that I'm like, oh, I really don't care too much for cars, so this isn't really my thing. And
Right.
maybe a few years ago, obviously it become a lot bigger, more of like a heist action, these types of action heist films, and
Yeah. Fast
completely,
Five.
yeah, completely
Hmm.
changed, right? And I still hadn't watched them until the summer of the day, the summer that we don't like to talk about 2 years ago. And
Right.
I decided to watch them all with my roommate, and that was actually a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
they're fun films to watch for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just kick back and just take in the action, just the adrenaline rush of those cars, and um, just they're really well made. And I really like the way. I mean, it's going to be interesting with Fast 10 with Justin Lin exiting
Hmm.
because his fingerprints were all over those films.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see, what what direction they go. So I started watching that, and of course, as far as some other recent films, a couple of Criterions, actually 3 Criterions, 2, I guess these recent releases.
Mm-hmm.
You got Around Midnight, The Girl Can't Help It, and just last night finished Iamofe. Yeah, Around Midnight.
Yep.
Yep.
I saw that you got it. It reminded me. Yeah, I need to get this. So I wanted to watch it.
It's very interesting. You know, it's not heavy on plot, you know, but it's very nicely atmospheric. Puts you in Paris in the 1950s.
So it's very jazzy.
And the music and the jazzy music is just fantastic.
So that sounds, I mean, like the thematical, I mean, if it's not going to be super plot driven, it's more, I guess, improv, maybe?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I suppose, you know, you're just sort of following these people, you know, during the days of their lives. And, you know, he's playing Dexter Gordon's, he's the lead, he's playing a jazz player, saxophone player, and he plays every night in this club. And, you know, this young gentleman who's in Paris is a big fan, and, you know, they strike up a big friendship, and it's very fascinating, just sort of following their lives over the course of a couple of months. Yeah. And then this one, I really, really dug this film. It's really cool. And this is one of those examples where I really do want to see the previous release of this film, because there's a controversy around the color timing of this release. And when I looked at it, to me, it looked fine, but this is the first time I've seen this movie, The Girl Can't Help It, with Jane Mansfield. So I don't have a frame of reference of how this is supposed to look. So people have said that the colors are off, you know, so I want to see a previous release of this. Have you seen this one yet?
I haven't, but I was definitely eyeing it at my local independent store where I pick up some of my Criterions. Luckily, I can get them like in store somehow, just depending on, usually I get them during the sales, but I was definitely eyeing that one. I'm like, this looks like an interesting release. Is it more of like a musical or like a music act?
It is. Oh yes, absolutely. It's not a great like movie in terms of the plot, so to speak, but it's really cool because it's introducing these rock and roll stars at the early days of rock and roll. So you have Little Richard and his band, Fats Domino, Gene Vincent, Julie London, the Platters, Eddie Cochran. So you see these people playing in these different nightclub scenes.
Okay.
And Jane Mansfield is a character who is also starring with Tom Ewell, and Tom Ewell is a washed-up agent. He's trying to make Jane Mansfield's character a star. So they go around to the various nightclubs, and it's just really and as they do, they see these different acts playing, and it's a showcase for, you know, Jane Mansfield and for all these players, and it's really interesting, and you learn so much about this actress. You know, she was, you know, basically a Marilyn Monroe, you know, like clone, so to speak.
Yeah, that's kind of what I initially was drawn to when I saw that cover. I mean, I was looking at all the names on the side, and I was like, it's like, that also looks like Marilyn Monroe. That's what that immediately pops up in your mind once you see that cover, right?
Yeah, and so this film was made in 1956, and of course, you know, unfortunately, she died tragically 11 years later. She was very young, 34 years old, in 1967 in it was a car accident, and 80 miles an hour slammed into the back of a truck, and it killed her and 2 other adults. In the back seat were her 3 children who survived, and one of those children was a 3-year-old Mariska Hargitay, who stars in Law and Order SVU.
Oh, okay.
So you sort of learn that connection. I was like, oh, okay. And you learn a lot about Jane Mansfield, who she was as a person. And this is very interesting, just based on what you learn about Jane Mansfield and what you learn about these music stars and rock and roll during that time. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that more than the story of the movie itself.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. What was the third one you had there?
So I have here Iamofe. This is My Desire. So it's a feature debut from these Nigerian directors. So Ari and Chuko Asiri. So they're from Nigeria, and this is their movie financed entirely in Nigeria, and just a really, really interesting story. I really enjoyed this. it really puts you in that country, and I really dug it. I need to watch it again, but it's just a really fascinating, film that puts you in a different place.
Yeah.
So I really, really dug this film. It's a pretty new film. It's from 2020. So
Oh, I was gonna say,
yeah.
what
So
year did it? I was gonna ask that. So
yeah. So new
that's really
filmmaker.
recent. Yeah.
Yeah, Ian Mofe, and then of course one of my all-time favorites. Oh my goodness.
I'm not. I was wanting to get that. I haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
Does it look good?
It looks great. It looks really,
Yeah.
really good. The Blu-ray also was very good. So it's not
I have the
it's
Blu-ray.
not this huge step up over it, but it is a little bit better across the board.
Right, probably on those blacks and whites too. I mean, that's the reason I like 4K a lot. Is that depth you get with those in particular. You can see that contrast. I suppose more.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed revisiting Singing in the Rain. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's just a great film. I love that film.
Yeah,
It's a great movie.
Are you been pretty excited about most of these 4K announcements and releases recently?
Very much so. I am. I mean, this year has just been insane in terms of all the announcements, and I'm really looking forward to. It makes me wonder what is in store for the back half of 2022,
Right.
because as we sit here now, as at the time of this video is being recorded, my most anticipated release that I am so excited about, and I actually had a peek at Blu-ray.com's review of it, and they're 5 stars across the board. They're top level reviews. So it's the 4K of Double Indemnity.
Oh yeah.
From Criterion, and I have this Universal edition of it right here.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty good. These Universal limited editions are really good, and they're saying that, or Blu-ray.com's reviews, stated that the 4K just blows it away. And
I love to hear that,
because really, really nice.
I pulled my old Blu-ray copy. I don't have that version, but I just had the standard edition from the studio, and I have it on the side. I'd be like, I have all the ones that I want to upgrade, and like Double Indemnity's in there. Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which I pre-ordered, which I'm very excited about.
Me too.
Just a few other things that I can think of that I need to upgrade, and it's kind of just crazy how it's only May now, and we still have so much to go. So
yeah, so Double Indemnity, I'm stoked for that coming out in a few weeks. Of course, I had pre-ordered Liberty Valance as well. Got Wild Things pre-ordered as well, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, I heard Fargo is getting a 4K later this year, so that is very exciting. And now all I need from the Coen brothers is No Country for Old Men. Can you imagine if Criterion were to announce that? That would just blow my mind. So
yeah, it's kind of we're getting spoiled, but I don't hate this, but I do need to watch which ones I do. Luckily with 4K, I'm glad that I don't know about when you really started picking up on the format, but for me it was more last year when I had a few 4Ks in the last few years, right? I had like 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Shining, Apocalypse Now. I think those are some of the 4Ks I had early on, but I hadn't really jumped on board with it because the Blu-rays were good enough for me for most of them.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the catalyst last year was the Halloween Scream Factory releases.
Oh, okay.
And then I just started thinking like, oh yeah, I want to get, and then I think around that same time, Criterion had announced that they were going to be in the 4K game. So I got Menace to Society, I got Citizen Kane.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I need, more 4Ks. And so I'm just looking.
I love those.
Yeah. Menace was the one I was going straight for because it is fantastic. And then, hearing earlier, like I got Crash from Cronenberg, and Tremors was really, Tremors is another great Arrow release that I didn't know I needed to have. So, but anyway, just so many good things going on. But when did you start?
I think I started 4K probably about 3 years ago, maybe 2019. I'm thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
either that or 2018. I think around 2019.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely picking up, and like I was kind of alluding to, is I think that the quality control has gotten a lot better when it comes to, well, depending on what we're talking about, right? Um, Depending on the company too, but we're getting a little bit better end of the 4Ks, but also a lot more people are paying attention. So, we're getting recalls. If there's any recall, we're going to get that fixed, which
Yeah.
is good. But anyway,
Hmm.
all right, so let's jump into the film journey a little bit more. But now that we have some of your recent watches, let's think a little bit further back. But what is
Okay.
your earliest memory of film?
So if I go back here, I think I've always had an affinity for like older stuff, stuff, before my time and what have you. But as I think about some of the films that when I first started getting into watching movies, films like Superman the movie, definitely top of mind for me. I didn't see it in the theaters, of course, but seeing it on cable, just it just it's just mind blowing. Just seeing it. Of course, now it's a little bit different viewing experience, but
Sure.
for that time, it's just a great viewing experience, and to this day, I think it still holds up as being one of the great superhero movies ever, just because of the leads, and their chemistry, and just the charm of Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. I don't think that's been equaled in terms of that combination. When you think about a Superman movie, you got to get Clark Kent right, and you got to get
Hmm.
Lois Lane right. And if that doesn't, you know, if you don't hit the mark on that, then you don't have a great Superman movie. And of course, Gene Hackman was just money as Lex Luthor. So loved Superman the movie. Let's see here. I think probably the Star Trek movies definitely can come to mind. I like the motion picture pretty good.
First.
I'm actually happy that I've heard we're getting a 4K of that. I think the director's cut of the motion picture. So looking forward to that. And of course, so the Star Trek, the motion picture, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, but also watching those Star Trek TV series in syndication. So the William Shatner, Leonard
Right.
Nimoy,
Yeah.
seeing those episodes of Star Trek, and then coupling that with seeing these movies, on cable was really awesome. The Color Purple, for me, just a great film. Uh, with Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover, Oprah Winfrey, back when they were, much younger, of course, in the early 80s. And so love that. And then a huge tentpole movie, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, so those are some of my earlier memories, of movies. That was a huge event movie.
That's an eclectic mix too. I mean,
Oh
well,
yeah.
here's the thing, and I'm gonna lose some people here. I actually have not seen the Superman films.
Oh
Which
really? Okay.
I know it's insane because I've seen most superhero things. I've seen Darkman with Sam Raimi. I've seen,
Okay.
all the Marvel stuff, and I've seen quite a bit of. I remember the early 2000s Superman, which with Kevin Spacey, of course, and watching all of those things. But yeah,
Right.
I've only seen clips of Christopher
Okay.
Reeves, which is unfortunate. I mean, I'm going to get to it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I actually just not a couple weeks ago was being hounded by one of my friends that I hadn't seen that. So that's actually
Yeah.
kind of funny and a little ironic that it's brought up again.
Yeah, I would watch the first one and the second one, Superman 2. I wouldn't bother with the third one with Richard Pryor, although I love Richard Pryor, but and I
The
wouldn't
fourth
bother
one's
with
fun
4,
though. You
Quest for
wouldn't?
Peace. I wouldn't bother with that one. With
I've heard that
Nuclear
one's really
Man.
fun. So
Which one?
the fourth, I've heard it's pretty insane. So
Yeah, it is.
yeah,
Nuclear Man.
yeah.
Crazy.
I'll
But
watch
yeah,
them
but
all just
definitely the
to
first
check it
one
off.
and 2.
1 and 2 are the ones to watch. Yes, those
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely I'll do it. I'll get the sets. I'll try to get I'll figure it out soon. Maybe if there's ever a 4K, maybe that's the thing to jump in on.
And you got Marlon Brando in those movies.
Oh yeah,
He
I've seen that.
he
Yeah.
plays Jor-El. He plays his father. So he's just not too far removed from Don Corleone. He's playing Jor-El from Krypton. So.
Yeah, almost the same guy.
Yeah.
I actually I have The Color Purple right there. That's on my watch list.
Okay.
I still it's one of my few Spielberg movies I haven't seen yet, actually.
Yes. And that is my favorite of his films. And that includes, and of course, if you ask most people, they'll tell you, Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List, which
Right.
are, no argument there for me. But my personal favorite is The Color Purple.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Spielberg the other day, and I was thinking, what is my favorite Spielberg? And I don't know if I necessarily have an answer yet, or at least one that's like come to mind. I feel like it changes, if that makes sense, on depending on how I feel. And I obviously haven't seen all of them, so at the moment, I want to say Close Encounters of a Third Kind might be one of my favorite ones that I've seen. I have the 4K of that, and I really enjoy that.
Does that look good?
Oh yeah, looks great.
Okay.
That was actually one of my early 4Ks. I got the steelbook of it at Best Buy, and I never had. I'm not much of a steelbook person, but definitely that one caught my eye because I just didn't have the movie at all. So I'm like, oh yeah, might as well. So yeah, I need to watch those movies. But I like those releases. And you were talking about Terminator 2: Judgment Day. So around that time, were you, I guess, in your youth? To where did that kind of open your eyes to something a little bit bigger? What was the next step from Terminator 2?
You mean from Terminator 2? Let me think here. Yeah, I mean, I was, of course, very, young at the time, but I definitely, it was such a tentpole event, that was revolutionary. I mean, it was bigger than life. It just felt, and really enjoyed it. I just wish that the home video releases, I wish that the 4K release met the bigger than life stature of that film, but of course it's had an epic number of releases on home video.
It sure has.
It seems like over 100. I have no idea how many, but I'm waiting. I have not got it in 4K yet because I'm waiting for a proper 4K. But from T2, definitely Forrest Gump was a huge film. I just seeing that was that movie just blew me away, and I really love that film. The characters, of course, Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump. Lieutenant Dan, is legendary.
Ice cream Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan. I love that. Bubba Gump, Jenny. His mom, Sally Field. It's such a beautiful movie, and there's so many just messages in that film. It's a combination of just being heartfelt and being funny as all get out. I mean, just some of the jokes in there with stuff happens or whatever.
I liked all the real news clips, and then Tom Hanks just being there.
Being there in the news,
shaking hands with the president.
him having him having a hand in all these in these world events. Right. I mean, it's just to me, it's one of the great movies ever. Another film, Juice, that recently got a 4K.
I still need that 4K. I still need it.
Yeah, it's really good with Tupac. That is a great movie, and I really enjoyed revisiting that on 4K. And of course, the Mission Impossible films. The first one, Tom Cruise. That one was directed by one of my favorite directors, Brian De Palma. So love that, and I think he's done Cruise. I think he's done a great job with all those films all these years. I mean,
it's only improved.
Yeah, I mean, he's I mean, whatever other issues aside, he's he knows what he's doing,
Yeah,
in
he's a
terms
great
of,
actor. And
acting
somebody
and
who has an
making
idea.
films. He's got it down. Uh, so yeah, the Mission Impossible films are just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching those first few Mission Impossible films growing up in the late '90s more so.
Yeah.
And I think I quit for a bit. I quit watching those films, and then I want to say it's very much like the Fast and the Furious that we were talking about earlier, where I just came back around to it. And I know that 4, 5, and 6 were, I think 6 had just happened. And everyone was like, oh yeah, you have to watch 4 and 5. Like those movies are actually really, really, really good. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I rewatched the whole series, and I'm like, I actually just love them all, right? For different reasons, right? So it's kind of crazy how.
You mean the Mission Impossible? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy how they've all turned around, and I think that has a lot to do with Cruise, right?
Yeah.
And his ideas of where things are going. But hopefully it's not another Jeremy Lin situation.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess from that time period, what did you I guess as a young adult in that adult life, was there any like tentpole movie or any particular event that's crossed over into your love of like, okay, I have to discover more about this medium, or at least do something about it, share it or showcase it a little bit more in your life?
I would say probably around shortly after the first Mission Impossible movies, I started getting into collecting like VHS and DVD at that time. And probably with the release of the first Matrix movie is when my movie fandom really began to take off, even more to another level of not only enjoying movies but also starting to collect them. And that first movie just blew me away. I remember talking to someone about it and before I saw it, and to me it's the perfect example, or one of the perfect examples, of a film that is best to know as little as possible going in, and just go in and watch it. If the only thing going in is the question, what is the Matrix, and then know nothing else and just be blown away by it, is really the best way to experience that film. So seeing that film, and then followed up by the tentpole a year, I guess 2003 is when its first 2 sequels came out, and remembered liking Reloaded, liking it okay.
I liked it okay
I remembered leaving the theater in November after Revolutions, feeling like,
you're right.
Okay. But I think it's a little controversial. And I did have a chance to see on HBO Max the recent one, Resurrections. Haven't been able to bring myself to buy that yet. It sort of falls in that bucket of, I just can't bring myself to buy this film bucket of films that I haven't been able to bring myself to buy on physical. So F9 is one of those films. Matrix Resurrections is another one of those films. And the other film is Rise of Skywalker, the episode 9. I just haven't been able to buy it. I was so disappointed walking out of that theater. I don't know. No matter what the price is, if I see it on Black Friday and it's $7.99 for the 4K, it would be a struggle for me even then to buy it, to be honest with you.
Oh man.
But anyway, I hope I haven't offended a lot of people who may love that movie. I don't know, but
hey, well, the thing is with that movie in particular, I actually have, and I think I've shared this before, but I was actually in China when that movie came out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I taught over there for a little bit, and
awesome.
I remember opening night, because it was actually Wednesday, because they release things Wednesday, so a day before.
Oh, cool.
Here in the States, and I remember going to the theater that night and like looking around, there was nobody in it, and I'm like, am I in the right place? I didn't know, because like it's Star Wars, right? Just doesn't matter what it is, it's still Star Wars. And then I walked out. It was like 5 minutes before the film, and I walked out and I asked the concierge desk, and I was asking, "Hey, am I the only one here?" And in my broken Mandarin, and they're like, "Yes." They're like, "You're the only one here," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I remember watching that movie by myself on opening night. I could have, I had the theater to myself, so I wasn't super beholden to. I mean, like I laughed more. I talked to myself a little bit. And I'm just like, what's going on? So now I have, I get the $7.99. Like, should I buy this or not? But only because I have that memory. I'm like, it's like, but it might just sit on my shelf, right? That's about it.
Right. Yeah.
That's about it. But yeah, I get that with there's a few things that might be on my own list of things that I don't know if I'm going to buy that yet. So
yeah. And that also kind of plays into, we were talking about 4K, a few minutes ago, and I'm really excited about all these 4K releases coming out, but it's also made me think about decisions around, do I upgrade or not upgrade, and there are some films in my collection that I have on Blu-ray or even DVD that I'm pretty fine. I'm just fine with it. Yeah, I don't need to upgrade to 4K. And then there's others I have that I really want that 4K. So I try to be selective about which ones I upgrade and which ones I'm okay with that DVD. I'm not going to watch that movie very often. So
I'm in the same boat myself, for sure. I have to be, because I mean things are getting more expensive, right?
Yeah, have to watch the wallet,
Yeah, that's the adulting that we have to do. Speaking of adulting, this is a good segue. I guess where you're at now, I know a little off camera, we were talking a little bit about your just interest in videography in general, right? So is this something that plays into, I guess, your channel, and then also your love of the medium itself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely into the whole photography and videography side of things, and I don't consider myself an expert in it at all, to be honest with you. I'm just sort of like in that baby stage of learning, learning the elements of properly exposing shots and composition and how to properly edit photos and white balance and all these different things. Photography, you can literally get lost in it, and then the whole videography side of things. So it's fascinating and interesting to learn, and the whole editing process, and just trying to apply it, of course, in the context of the whole YouTube thing, but then in other elements as well, in terms of covering sports events, football and basketball events that my son's teams are involved in, sort of being a team photographer, or like with a friend of the family, or other people that we know doing their kids' birthday parties or other events. So just taking those opportunities where I can to just sharpen those skills and just continue to learn. So
was there any
it's pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, did this come about because of your love of film, or just kind of a side note too, or was there anybody that inspired you to do that, or kind of just something you caught on to?
It's kind of an outgrowth of the love of film. It's sort of all connected. Just the whole filmmaking process is something that's very fascinating to me, which is part of the reason why I love like Criterion, right? It's like film school in the box. You're not just watching a movie, but you're also learning the process of what went into making this movie, which sometimes is, depending on how you feel about the film, sometimes understanding that helps you to better appreciate the movie.
Right.
Maybe you watch the film and you're like, oh, that was okay, or that was all right. But then you learn a little bit more about it. And you're like, you sort of gives you a greater appreciation for it. You still may not love it, but sort of raises your appreciation of it a little bit more,
I've definitely,
so I like that.
Just boutiques in general. I mean, Criterion being a prime example, but I don't know about you, but I blind buy a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And with that being said, you know, I think it is those supplemental things, you know, maybe a film essay or just a commentary or some kind of special feature with somebody involved, maybe a film historian, whatever it is. But that added appreciation for me, you know, I can think of Indicator is a label that I like to use as an example. There's a lot of films from Indicator that, at least for I think our context, since we're from America, we don't really know much about these films because they're more British based for the most part. And I watched a movie and then I'm like, that was something, right? It was a B movie or something. And then I watched the special features and I just see the extra context and I'm like, I think more about it and I think about all those scenes and it paints a bigger picture to me. And then I think I start appreciating it a little bit more. And I think we're spoiled in that sense because we're definitely living in a really great time for physical media. So
for sure.
A little too much though. Well, that's awesome that you're, you know, utilizing different avenues, you know, of the medium itself in different ways. And I'm a little bit jealous of that. And I think I need to start doing a little bit more of that myself. But I think there's a good segue here to maybe some of your favorite films. Do you have a few that come to mind that, you know, during that period from early to now, like that have stuck with you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. As I think about, I sort of have some of them right here. You reach for one right here. Of course, I talked about this one already, but this is one of my top 25 favorites of all time. This movie is just so incredible and sort of tied to what we were just talking about before about, you know, going through the supplements, you learn about like what went into the history of the, you know, of making the film. But I also like movies like this that show you the movie making business. So that's almost like a movie within a movie. It shows you the behind the scenes process of making a movie. And I just love this film. It's just absolutely brilliant. So this is one of my favorite films. I would say this is a Clint Eastwood movie. That's my favorite Clint Eastwood movie. So The Color Purple is my favorite Spielberg movie. It's one of my favorite films, but this is my favorite Eastwood movie. Here, Play Misty for me.
Yeah.
So this is his directorial debut from '71, and I love this movie. It inspired, you know, Fatal Attraction. It's just a great film. Of course, he plays a DJ in Northern California. He's stalked by this woman here, played by Jessica Walter, who recently passed away, I think about a year ago. She was absolutely brilliant, and I just love this movie. There's like a jazz concert in the middle of this movie. This movie is just great. I love this movie.
I have a box set of Clint Eastwood over there, and that's in there. I need to get to that.
Yeah, it's my favorite of his of the films he's directed. Most people probably wouldn't say that, but that's my favorite. And then let's see, Alfred Hitchcock is my favorite director. So of course, a number of his films are up there for me. Psycho and Vertigo are up there. Rear Window. I love The Birds. I love all these movies.
I love The Birds.
This set is beyond amazing. These films look great. I think Psycho is I think you had a video about is there a perfect movie recently?
Yeah.
And I don't know if there is, but this film here is about as close. Okay. This film, I was looking at a text that was coming through here. But I thought I put Do Not Disturb on there. But anyway, so
what a psycho.
Yeah, Psycho, exactly. Someone's stalking me. Hey. So I think Psycho is as close to a perfect movie as I've ever seen in terms of the way that movie was shot and edited and paced. To me, it's as close to cinematic perfection as anything that I've seen. I'm really excited about the Volume 2 set coming in a couple days.
I need them both. I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, and I need to.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, Vertigo and Psycho look amazing in 4K. They all look great. And they're all great movies. And I'm looking forward to this one coming out. Shadow of a Doubt is
a great movie.
Brilliant. Joseph Cotten is great, menacing, just wonderful, you know. So Really enjoyed that. What are some other favorites of mine? Play Misty for me, Singing in the Rain, Psycho, Forrest Gump is one of those top ones for me. Sort of looking at a list here. No Country for Old Men, you know, my favorite Coen Brothers film.
That year was incredible, by the way.
Oh, 2007.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially, I mean, I guess those more neo westerns, because I mean,
Yes.
yeah. So you had There Will Be Blood was that year. So was No Country for Old Men, and one of my favorites is Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Oh, I've not seen that one. Okay.
Yeah, very underrated, but I love it. But No Country for Old Men is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And I'm looking forward to, this is coming out pretty soon, the 4K Steelbook of Hell or High Water that I recently saw. That's another neo-Western with Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges.
Taylor Sheridan.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
Pretty good. So, but yeah, of course, a couple others. Hitchcock films, Rebecca. Great film. I love that fantastic one. Let's see. Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal. What a film. Probably one of the best films that came out in 2014. Love that film. So, I'm sorry.
Have you seen Ace in the Hole with the Billy Wilder film?
Yes. Yeah, I love
that's what I think. Anytime I watch Nightcrawler, that's what I immediately think. It's very different, but similar in its depiction of somebody who is so driven for sensation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Billy Wilder is, someone asked me who are my top 5 directors.
That was going to be my next question.
Billy Wilder is probably, because it changes. People ask, what's your favorite film? What's your favorite? You know, it kind of evolves. It's not set in stone. And, you know, Billy Wilder might make his way into my top 5, you know, because he's just got some incredible films. He's just an amazing writer. So,
yeah. I mean, I know we recently both got Some Like It Hot, right?
I have the Criterion. I have not gotten the Kino Lorber version, 4K yet.
It looks good. So
okay.
But yeah, Billy Wilder is incredible, and I think this is a good segue to some of your favorite directors. I know you may have mentioned Hitchcock and Wilder. What are some other ones?
Yeah, Hitchcock is my favorite all-time director. Then the others that would be in that top 5 in no particular order would be Akira Kurosawa is definitely up there for me. Love him. Love Martin Scorsese. Let's see, who else? I'm drawing a blank here. So Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, love him. Love Kill Bill, both volumes 1 and 2, and Stanley Kubrick. Did I say Stanley Kubrick?
You didn't, but good choice.
Stanley Kubrick, love him. I mean, he and Ridley Scott kind of blow me away with just their vision, with their range.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Range.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane, you know. Yeah. So many great directors. Even, I mean, I just tried to list my top 5.
Right.
But beyond that, there's all these amazing directors: Brian De Palma, Ridley Scott, Spike Lee. All of these amazing directors that I have a lot of respect for. The Jordan Peele is going to start to rise in that list for me. The more films he makes, I'm looking forward to Get Out. I mean, not Get Out. Nope. Nope. Not Get Out.
Nope. Not Get Out.
Nope.
Yeah. It looks crazy, and I mean, I expect nothing less from Jordan Peele. So
yeah, I mean, I'm going to go into that movie knowing about as much as I want to know, which is very little. I know very little. I just want to go in and just be blown away, you know.
Same. Matt, do you remember? I don't know if you ever watched Mad TV, but that's where I remember Jordan Peele back in the early 2000s with Keegan, you know, as well. I always, yeah, they were in Mad TV, and that's where my first introduction to Key and Peele were.
Cool.
Yeah, now I didn't
catch that.
I'm so glad he's where he is now. I mean, he's just done fantastic things, and I still have yet to see him do the Twilight Zone. I'd like to see those episodes. Okay. I know he was a narrator.
I think I've seen one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen one of them. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just a host though, but I'm excited to check it out nonetheless. But those are excellent directors. I couldn't argue with any of those. So
yeah. I mean, they just amazing filmmakers, and there's so many of them. And part of, for me, what I've enjoyed about sort of doing this YouTube thing is just reading the comments sections of videos, either videos I've done or other people's videos, like your videos, and other people out there in the BlueTuber community, and just reading comments and hearing from people about recommendations for this film, this director, and just discovering new films, because there's just so many films out there that I haven't seen.
Right, same.
I mean, Hitchcock is my favorite director, but I haven't seen all of his films. There's a lot of his films I haven't seen, including some of the films that are going to be coming in this 4K set. So I'm going to get a chance to see them looking better than they've ever looked, probably. So it's going to be great.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and that's why I was saying earlier, we're getting spoiled a little bit with our physical media releases, and I think there's no better time. I mean, even without the physical media, the streaming side of things too. For the average person, I love that we have that access. Luckily.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, there's no better time than now to. I've always, like you were saying, near the top. I remember you talking about always kind of being interested in older things, right? That speaks a lot to me, because growing up, I grew up. I was born in the early 90s, but most of the things that I love are way older than that, right? And I always tell people, I mean, I teach, and one of the things that I always do is I always like to quote Princess Bride, which came out in '87, right over there, and it's one of my favorite films, and I expect most people to watch it, right, and have seen it before. But now, the older I get, I'm like, oh yeah, most of these people were born in the year 2000 or whatever, and I don't know if they've been exposed to it, but I mean, they have the access to it now, and that makes me really happy. So I don't want to be that curmudgeon and say they haven't seen it, but they have access to it. So that's incredible. Yes. So yeah.
But I love old stuff. I mean, you mentioned that, and it makes me think about this here. Like just seeing this in syndication. This is, I just, to this day, I love this whole TV series, and
a great show.
and just sort of seeing the connections to cinema. You mentioned, Citizen Kane. The mother of Charles Foster Kane, Agnes Moorehead, is in Dora from Bewitched. I mean, it just sort of seeing those connections is just so cool, and seeing her in Magnificent Ambersons, it's like, oh wow, okay, that's in Dora, 20 years before she, played in Bewitched. And then of course I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Seasons 1 and 2. I was disappointed that they didn't, do the rest of the seasons, but I guess they decided not to continue that. Maybe the sales weren't good.
Are DVDs now. I mean, most TV shows are still on DVD, which is very strange. But I suppose it's because of maybe they're just on television still. Because I know my mom and dad, they still have cable. I know they watch syndication through that. But then, there's still TCM exists, of course, and so does a lot of these other channels that are streaming services too, that probably replay that over and over again. So but it would be nice to get all of them on Blu-ray. I would love that, because I have so many shows on DVD that I'm like, I would really love for that to be on Blu-ray. But
maybe someday. I saw on Blu-ray.com, $6 Million Man is coming on Blu-ray. So who knows? Anything could happen,
maybe, hopefully one day. I guess this would be an interesting transition, because we were just talking about directors. But if you could be in one director's film, who would you choose to be in their film?
Probably Quentin Tarantino. I love the dialogue in his films. I love the quirky nature of his films. They're just kind of crazy,
High strung, very high strung.
So I would probably go for Tarantino. you know.
That's not a bad.
You
That's
know,
not a bad option. That would be fun, I think.
you
So
know.
you have
If I could hit the mark, you know, if I could hit the mark, I would say, hey, Tarantino, you know.
he might have a little bit of a like a standard that he wants all of us to get to, right?
Right.
To be a little bit like up here and
Yeah.
over. That would be interesting. I feel like I would get really nervous being around him. I would it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what do you want from me? Okay, how do I do this?
Right.
I'd be in my head a lot with it, but
Okay, I got Samuel L. Jackson over here, and I got Leonardo DiCaprio over here, and I'm like, okay, I'm completely nervous.
and I'm supposed to talk to both of them. I'm supposed to be their waiter, or somehow they're going to interact with me and I have to talk to them, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, what do I say here?
yeah, I would. And then Sam Jackson would make fun of me for like, hey, read, like you know the line. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
I got it. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Tarantino. And you were mentioning Kill Bill earlier. Those were the two films that I watched first, and
Yeah.
that was the introduction for me. And then I
Do you
started.
have a favorite Tarantino film?
I think Hateful Eight might be my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not one that many people talk about.
Right.
I definitely would say there's like my favorite, and then there's like objective favorites, right? So like,
Okay.
Pulp Fiction is definitely one of the best movies, and I completely understand why.
Yes.
But for Hateful Eight, for me, and my own just type of movie that I gravitate towards a lot, I think of 12 Angry Men. I think of, I have behind me the Before trilogy. A lot of films that are almost like plays. So like I like things that are all in one location for the most part, and then it's all dependent on how good the interactions are. And Hateful Eight is more or less that, right? How are they interacting with each other, and then what environment are they all in? And I don't know, I fall in love with that movie. And yeah, but what about you?
Favorite Tarantino would be Kill Bill. Kill Bill 1 and 2, Jackie Brown. I love Jackie Brown, and I love Pulp Fiction. I have grown to like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood more. I do remember leaving the theater feeling a little disappointed, but then when I got it on physical and watched it, again, I'm appreciating it more and more. And the last 15 minutes are just wow. It's like,
don't look at dog food the
like,
same.
Yeah. Ooh, goodness gracious. So, but yeah, it's grown on me, and I appreciate what Leo did in that, and Brad Pitt did in that, more and more, and so
yeah, good choices. I mean, he has I think he's just making one more, right? So
possibly, and I'm hearing rumors of Kill Bill 3.
Yeah, like a complete. Who knows? I've heard
Star
Trek too, which is
I think if he wants to do it, is as long as he's got a good script, if he does it right, then I'm good with it. But don't mess it up,
Yeah,
the thing,
that's a lot of pressure. Yeah, he'll figure it out though. He does. So
yeah.
I guess this would lead me to ask you the question of, if your movie if your life was a movie, what would the title be?
Oh wow. The title of the movie.
Like, well, yeah.
Oh wow, that's a good one. Title of a movie. I'm gonna cheat and probably say a TV show, Stranger Things.
That would be your name, your movie, Stranger Things.
Yeah. Either Stranger. I'm not gonna say Psycho. Maybe Vertigo.
Oh, so you would name it after an existing property? I'm saying your life. How would you name your life? If you can come up with your own title. I know it's a big.
I would say probably Once Upon a Time in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's perfect. That's good.
Yeah.
We need more Once Upon a Time movies on our shelf anyway, right?
Yep.
we gotta get all the locations down.
Oh yes.
I like it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
those are great choices too, by the way, with Vertigo and Psycho. And yeah, I hope it's not too crazy, either Vertigo or Psycho in your world.
Right. Yeah, I actually remember getting Vertigo a few years back. I was like, wow, I had two bouts of it, and a few years back, and it's definitely a, I don't know if you've ever had it before, but
My mom has.
it's definitely a very disorienting thing. I remember just sort of being in the bed and just having this sensation that I was falling over. And your equilibrium is completely thrown off, and you just have to get on some kind of a medicine for it, and it corrects it. So it happened one time, and then I think the following year I had a reoccurrence of it, but haven't had it ever since. But
Yeah, I
so I'm
don't.
like, okay, so that's what James Stewart was experiencing in that film. So
Okay. So now am I supposed to go to Mount Rushmore and try to figure this out? Right.
yes,
No, wait. Am I thinking of North by Northwest? I am.
North by Northwest.
Yes.
Yes,
Well, maybe I should have
yeah.
talked.
Cary Grant was in that one. Yeah,
Yeah, I should have said something about a plane, right?
yes. The crop duster plane.
Yeah, that's North by Northwest too. I'm just going down that rabbit hole instead of
which
yeah.
which we need a 4K of that one too.
Oh
We
yeah,
need a
that's
4K of North by Northwest, and I've heard there's a 4K master of it or a restoration that's been
right.
done on it. So, fingers crossed. I mean, this has been an epic year so far. So, I mean, if we can get an announcement of North by Northwest on 4K, that would be great.
I think it's a
That
different
looks 4K.
studio. I think
Hmm.
that's why it hasn't been alongside like Vertigo and Psycho and like those collective results, because it's just its own thing because it's in the hands of a different studio. I think MGM
Yeah,
maybe put it
I
out.
think MGM.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I mean,
Hmm.
as long as even if it's like I know the Thing came out last year, like The Standard, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And
Yeah,
I was actually really pleased by that Universal release because
yeah.
I'm happy with that or a boutique
The
label.
John Carpenter film, you mean? Or
Yeah,
yeah, that was really good.
yeah. It is a great 4K release, and
Hmm.
yeah, I'm just happy if it's released on 4K and is actually treated right. That's the important thing, right?
Yeah,
Make sure you don't you
yeah,
get
for
the color
sure.
timing right? The color timing
That's
for
right.
um so I guess this would lead me to my final question for you. How has the medium changed your worldview or outlook on life?
I would say, part of what attracts me to these different films from all over the world, is just it just gives you a glimpse into other areas of the world, and other places that I have not been to. In some cases, places that I'll never go to in my life. Would like to see these places, and I'll probably visit some of these places at some point. But it just puts you in a different world, and you get to see the world through other people's eyes, through the lens of other people's experiences, not only different areas of the world, but different areas of the world at different times. So, you know, one of my favorite films I didn't mention was from the Criterion release, the Apu trilogy, a
Oh
film
yeah,
called Pather Panchali, which is a film from Satyajit Ray, and just seeing the experiences of this young boy growing up in India, I think in the 1940s or 50s, just seeing his life and the tragedies and the adversities that he went through. You just sort of get a glimpse into, okay, this is what life was like in India in the in the mid 20th century. And it just sort of gives you a glimpse into that that I really do appreciate. And it just sort of helps shape your perspective on things. You sort of have a broader, at least I hope a broader perspective than just a U.S. centric way of looking at things. And you just understand that the world is it's a big world.
mhm.
And just sort of seeing what's going on in other areas of the world, and how people lived at different times, and just also making those historical connections. So like seeing a film like Charlie Chaplin, The Great Dictator from 1940, or seeing Ernst Lubitsch, To Be or Not to Be, which I think is from 1940, and them talking about this war overseas, World War, and sort of making fun of Hitler. Now, this was 1940. And so at that time, people weren't aware of all of what was going on at that time. We didn't have social media. We didn't have, what we have today. So the awareness, of all that was going on was just not there. And it wasn't until a few years later that people would uncover, like, oh my God, these things that were going on, so it's sort of interesting seeing the perspective back then of how people saw what was going on. So you sort of get that historical perspective of things, and it's just fascinating to me. It just sort of helps shape the way that you see things, and you just realize that the world's a pretty big place.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm the same ilk, and I think for me, this whole thing just encompasses more of a bigger worldview of life in itself. And when I say that, I mean I have more of an understanding of those experiences, but I also at the same time try towards the positive side of things, where I can take some things from maybe something negative, like The Great Dictator is a good example of, well, it's a comedic negative thing, right? But it's also got a really good message at its heart, right? And I think at the end of the day, even the hardest movie like Come and See or something along those lines is almost necessary to watch, because you can have a bigger empathy towards other people, and I that's why I love this medium. So do you have anything else to add to this conversation?
I would just say, before I came on here, I just had this random thought in my mind about how many movies, are there and out there.
Yeah.
And so I just put in Google, how many movies, and it auto-populated how many movies have ever been made. Because I just wanted to know, and it said, like, we don't know for sure, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, if you count all the feature films, shorts and different, documentaries, what have you, animated films, somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 or more, total films ever made. And so that made me realize that, we're people that watch a lot of movies,
right,
of course, but I think about, okay, here's all the movies that have ever been made, and then here's what I've watched, right here, and I've watched only a small fraction of everything that's out that's out there, and I'll never see everything that's been made, but you just enjoy what you can enjoy, and everybody has different experiences, have seen different things, and it's just a great medium, and you can almost get lost in it, but that's why we love it.
Yeah, that's an incredible number, and you're exactly right.
Yes.
I mean, there's not enough time in the world to watch all of that, but I'm glad that we, especially in this space, we're able to share our experiences and also recommend, get inspired, and I really love that about everyone involved and everyone who's watching this as well. Even people who are leaving comments in the comment section. I mean, I really appreciate what that involvement and sharing does for all of us. So here I am. I still have a third of my collection I haven't seen. So
I'm in the same boat. Yep.
Yeah, and I'll eventually get there. So, but that's all good though. Where can everyone find you?
Well, I am on YouTube, on the YouTube channel is 20th and 21st Movies. I am also on Instagram at 20th and 21st, as well as Twitter. I believe it's at and 21st on Twitter. And so, heavily on YouTube and on Instagram. That's where you can find me at 20th and 21st Movies.
I'll be putting that in the description down below for everyone to check this out. I hope everyone enjoyed our conversation, and I hope it inspired you. to, you know, talk to us too down in the comment section. And we would love to see what your thoughts are on some of, maybe this sparks some of the ideas and memories that you have, and your experience with film and the medium itself. But thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. And give it a like, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. I'm not Jones.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.